Hello, everyone. As you see in the title and thumbnail, we're here to talk about the decline of the NBA. We have a guest today, so B Strip, want to tell us about yourself?
Yeah, first off, thanks for having me.
No
Showtime
problem.
Nick.
Pleasure to have
Appreciate
you.
it. Yeah. So like you said, my name is B Strip from California. I've been a professional basketball player for almost 10 years now, which includes signing to the NBA, playing in Japan, playing in Australia, playing in Vietnam. And besides that, I've been coaching since I was 18 years old on all levels. I've been
hmm
training people all over the world. And yeah, man, it's a pleasure to be here. Let's do this.
Yeah. Okay. So ratings in the NBA have been at an all-time low, even though the media claimed that the players are so much better today, and so much of the younger generation believes it because that's what the media has to shove down our throats all the time. But those of us who've been around for at least the 2000s or longer than that, yeah, it does sound fishy to us, right? The current athletes have more resources than past generations did, and I would think that those who've been around much longer than we have can vouch for that. And the regular season has become such a drag to watch because, it's not taken seriously enough. Guys aren't nearly as fierce competitors as Michael Jordan or Kobe these days. And it's too much to ask for now for guys to play every single game, even when they're not hurt. And that's one thing, but also too many threes, and even guys that aren't actually great shooters are taking way too many threes. Transition threes instead of taking the open layup or dunk. And it's a lot of things that we're going to talk about are also with the competitiveness. I also think that the referees are part of the problem too, not letting men be men. Too many uncontested rebounds nowadays. And yeah, the games are just so high scoring now. We even see regular season games today that have higher scores than what the All-Star game used to be. It's a lot of things that have definitely been killing the product of today's NBA, or also the All-Star game nowadays is a complete joke. And yeah, I just don't think that the right steps have been taken to fix these problems. And, it does start with Adam Silver. I also think that players need to be held accountable too. Guys make more money than ever before, and it's too much to ask for a lot of these guys to have nearly the pride that the older generation had. Many NBA legends have called this out.
It's awful basketball. I hate to be the old get off my lawn dude.
Nah, I'm with you.
It's awful basketball.
No defense.
No defense. And it's become a three-point shooting contest.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing that bothers me, and people are like, oh, you just mad because you didn't play. I said, no, 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 no. There is strategy in basketball. To just go to the gym saying, we're just going to jack up threes all night. And if we make them, we win. If we miss them, we lose. And the only thing that bothers me, I said, hey, all you motherfuckers can't be good three-point shooters.
Right.
I said, wait a minute. If you're a good three-point shooter, all y'all motherfuckers ain't Steph and Clay.
Right.
I says, I don't mind guys shooting threes, but your big guys are shooting threes now.
Mm-hmm.
I says, if y'all just gonna have three-point shooting contests, just say it.
Many might think these are just angry old men, but the thing is, these guys see the game from a different lens from having been around the game for so long and have succeeded at the highest level.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much said a lot right there, And there's so many things to say. Like you said, you know what I mean? Just let me know where you want to start off on. We can
Okay,
go into
yeah.
what
So I
you
wanted to talk about the ratings, being at an all-time low. And I think Adam Silver did come out and say that online streams are a problem. And I've used those since I was 19 years old. And the ratings were definitely not at an all-time low back then like they are now. Online streams have been a thing for a long time. Not only that, with illegal streams, I have used them to watch Laker games when I'm in New York. But also, I can guarantee you that if people actually have money, they're gonna want to pay to watch the games on TV over using an illegal stream for free, because the viewing experience on an illegal stream is not even good anyways, because it's constant lagging, and yeah, it's not even a good viewing experience anyways. I think that people would rather actually watch the game on a TV anyways. But I also remember you talking about Peacock yesterday and all that.
I love the NFL. I love the NFL. But Christmas is our day.
I want to agree with LeBron on that, but then the NFL actually happened to outdo the NBA on Christmas. Even though the Christmas NFL games were a complete joke, right? But the Warriors-Lakers game was actually a thriller, yet more people tuned into the NFL games than the Lakers-Warriors game, which I think was the most watched game since, I think, around 2019, right?
Well, first off, that's incredible that game is the most watched game since 2019. Like
Like,
that is
I think it's
incredible.
around that, yeah.
Yeah, what 82 games in the season. That's almost six. You can do the math on that.
Right.
1,000 games, 700 at least. And you're telling me that's the most watched game since then. It's pretty incredible. And then you mentioned the NFL, right? I think the element that you're missing that people love about the NFL, you really don't know who's going to win. That's why they call it any given Sunday, because it's a team game. You hear people saying that all the time, right? So sometimes the NBA game before they start, and sometimes these players are out.
Yeah.
You're more player and not a team, right? And then that player's out. I mean,
Mhm.
who's going to want to watch? So
That's
that
true,
plays
yeah.
into
That's the thing I was talking about. The fact that I don't think anyone was load managing on Christmas, but yeah, way too often nowadays, guys sit out games even when they are healthy.
yes. And then things happen, right? Players get
Players get traded,
so
yeah.
the games come out, the season come out way before the season. You know that, right?
Right.
Maybe a Clay Thompson before the season starts and free didn't hit yet, right? And then by the time he gets traded, it's already too late. They already have the for a Christmas game schedule. I'm
Right.
saying so.
Mhm.
Those things play into it as well. There's a lot of aspects that play into it as well, but that's why it's a team game. So when you decide as individuals or whatever you're advertising, you know what I'm saying? It's not a team game. The team element's missing. Part.
Mhm.
How many times do you watch an NFL game and a backup quarterback comes in, Cooper Rush or whatever the case may be, and that team still wins
Yeah, it's
without
not
their
very
main
often. And
without
the
their
only
main
time I can
player, without
think
their main
of
player playing?
Yeah, the Eagles won the Super Bowl with the backup quarterback, or before we were born, the Giants did. But yeah, those are the only two examples I can think of. More often than not, yeah, your team is pretty screwed if your backup has to come in.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but a lot of teams just, you can maintain it though. You can maintain it until that time comes, right? Those are big games. I mean, 49ers have a backup. He's not back up right now, but he was. It's due from an injury, right? And they went to the Super Bowl and they went to champion. They went to a couple conference championship games with him as well.
Yeah, Brock Purdy, the
But he
last
came
pick of
in
the draft.
exactly. Yeah, but he came in as a backup from
Right, that's
injury,
true.
right? He was from injury, and they went to the Super Bowl with him. They went to a conference championship.
Yeah, they went to
So
the NFC Championship when he came in as a backup, but he started last season as a starter, right?
yeah, that's true. But got his starting position from an injury. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, that is
But
true.
they
And
didn't
in fact,
draft
Tom
him.
Brady did that too with Drew Bledsoe.
Exactly. That's why I mean market teams, not the individual, because it happened with the individual comes. And that changes the whole market and it changes the whole dynamic, right? And everything like that. But then again, let's go back to also what you said, you know what I mean? Back to the streaming platforms, right? That's how they make their money. And the best example of this is college. Oh, why the Pac 12 broke up? It was because they were arguing over revenue expenses from the Pac 12 network. That's how
Mhm.
it started, right? That's how it started. They didn't know how it was going to be distributed, right? Then they got a new president, right? And then after a while, SEC network, do you know how much money making? That's why Texas and Oklahoma joined them. SEC network was making a huge amount of money. And that's a streaming platform, right? SEC network's only SEC network, right?
Okay.
You have to,
Mhm.
right? And that's what started the Big Ten network. That's what started the Pac-12 network, all these branding online services. And that's why you see an elimination of conferences. So use that now with the NBA scale, right? That's exactly what the NBA is doing. It doesn't matter that people aren't watching, like you said, right? The highest grossing game since 2019, right? It doesn't matter because they already signed a streaming deal. So the money's already there. So it doesn't
Okay.
matter anymore
Mhm.
because they already signed a deal. It's not, oh, if this player is available on Christmas, you don't know. They're already paid when they, right? That's what it is. It's a licensing service. It's a branding service. It's already done.
Okay. Mhm. But yeah, like, if you go, but what I was really talking about, like, yes, I understand that there are streaming sites where like, you do make money off of, but also the illegal streams. Cause that's what I remember Adam Silver pointing to. Cause I wouldn't think something like Peacock is illegal, but there's such thing as NBA Byte that you can click on and then it gives you a bunch of links to be able to watch the game and you watch the game for free.
But the elite turn into legal, right? So before it started and Hulu got, they were nobodies. Remember, you used to be able to stream on those servers. Then they got so big from being illegal, they did deals with them. For example, Reddit. Reddit is a legal stream, right? The
Yeah,
guy that
it
got
links to illegal streams.
exactly. The guy that created it got so much money, right? Yeah, if you know who that is, right? Is he married? He's married to one of the best tennis players ever, right? Sold the brand, right? Same thing. Napster was illegal. Remember that a long time ago? Then it became so big, it's legal, sold his shares, right? When you look at it, man, that's how it starts.
Okay, because there was a lot of things that I actually used way back in the day, like when I was 19 years old in college. There was First Row Sports or USA Goals. Those sites don't work anymore. And there was one that I've used for the NFL, and yeah, that doesn't work anymore either. But I felt like when I heard that, and maybe I was getting the wrong idea, but I thought you might be talking about the sites that I was just mentioning. And yeah, I mean, I felt like that's just a cop out because from my viewing experiences on those sites, watching it on TV is a million times better because there's just no
I mean,
lagging.
yeah, I mean, yeah, you can say that, right? But then when you look at boxing, they're known for that, right? When you watch a fight, an undercard, most people are streaming that, right? Look how much money the boxers make. Look how much money, right? Use the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson fight. Look how much money that made,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the product was so-so, right? So look how much money that made in legal streams, man, all over. Boxing's really famous for that. It's hard to find, you know that they start on pay-per-view,
Yeah, I remember
always like
when, yeah, Manny Pacquiao versus Floyd Mayweather. I'm not that big into boxing, but I do remember when that was on pay-per-view
yeah.
back in, I
But
think,
that's what I'm saying though.
2015.
They start from illegal streams, man. And then they get so big, right, that they make a deal with them. Because that's what I was telling you about the other day. You're not going to be able to stop an illegal stream.
Oh, of course not.
Like
Yeah,
you
they're
said.
always going to exist.
Exactly. So what do you do then when it gets too big? They partner with them.
Mm-hmm.
Or that illegal stream, like you're saying, your illegal stream, right? It just dissipates, right? But the other ones converge.
Mm-hmm.
So but yeah, that's definitely not I mean, like you said, I don't think that that's the problem at all. I kind
Yeah,
of
I
agree
don't think
with
it's
you.
a
That's
problem at all.
definitely not
Yeah,
the
it's
problem.
really the fact that the product is declining.
Yeah, and why do you think that is? What's for that?
It's the way the game is played and players' approaches nowadays. And also, like, I remember you were talking to me and like we were agreeing, there's not as much accountability as there used to be. And also, the All-Star game has become a joke because there was actually once a time when All-Star games were actually competitive, and not even just the All-Star game itself, but the Saturday night events, those aren't nearly as exciting to watch anymore, especially the dunk contest. And yeah, also how rebounds are just go uncontested most of the time nowadays, and lack of pride on defense. When you were growing up, did the term two-way player get thrown around nearly as much as it does now? I don't remember it getting thrown around nearly as much. And also, rivalries have become dead.
Yeah, man, there's so much content you just said right there. So let's just back it up. Let's just go back to the count. Yeah, that's a really big problem. I mean, you're seeing coaches now win championships and then hold their players accountable and then they get fired, right? Happened in
Right,
Milwaukee,
yeah. Like
happened in
nowadays,
LA.
the coach has to take the bullet for the whole team, whether it's really his fault or not. Of course,
I mean,
coaching matters, but players still have to play, and there's only so much a coach can really control.
yeah, well, that's because then we're going to go because the contract, right? I
Hmm.
mean, usually the player allows the coach, right? Usually, right? That's usually what goes on, especially nowadays, right? These coaches
Exactly.
like a coaching carousel, right? So when
Yeah.
you're saying that like the player lasts longer than the coach, who are you going to cater to, right? Then
Right.
when you're talking about like players have, I don't know if you want to say it's more power. I don't know if you want to say more
Oh,
entitlement. I
definitely
don't know.
players having power. We are in the age of player empowerment nowadays.
Well, what do you mean by that, really? What's it? Is it empowerment or is it entitlement? Which one is it?
Okay, yeah, I feel like it's a lot of both, but yeah, like players have a lot more control nowadays, and it is also getting to the point where they're becoming entitled.
Because I feel like when you say empower, when you empower somebody, right? It's like you build confidence in them, you motivate them. You know what I mean? You
Okay,
make people better, right? Sometimes you got these players going to other teams and they're empowered and they're entitled, but are they getting better? Did the Sacramento Kings get better this year? Did
no,
they
they
lose a
didn't, and
coach?
they ended up firing their
Did they
coach.
do they have to fight it? Okay, so is that empowerment or is that you see what I'm saying? So I don't which one are you talking about here? Empowerment or entitlement? Because
Okay, I
empowerment,
mean,
whenever you say empower something, right? You
Okay,
think
yeah.
about making
So I
sure
guess, we call it player empowerment because they have the control, but yeah, I think you bring up a good point. It is becoming more like player entitlement.
that's what it seems like. That's what it seems like.
Yeah. So what I wanted
So
to
I think,
also go to was
so I think that's the problem. And you got to figure out, when did this entitlement start and how did it get bigger
right.
and how does it continue to go on?
It started back in 2010 when LeBron did the decision, and it's just grown from there.
I mean, yeah. You know what I'm saying? I feel like you're onto something there, you know? I'm not going to really say nothing about LeBron, but I think you're onto something there, right?
Yeah,
So,
and you know
I
what? Like, people might be saying it was unfair when the Warriors got KD, but my response to that is LeBron only has himself to blame because KD watched LeBron celebrate his first championship in front of his own eyes. LeBron beat KD for his first championship, and he saw LeBron do it the easy way, teaming up with his buddies. And that made KD think, okay, this is okay for me to do too, and I can win the easy way and still be respected. It made KD think that when he had free agency and joined the Warriors.
I mean, I think you gotta go now. We gotta go back to what I was telling you about before when you mentioned a lot of content, right? Now we're talking about fierce competitors,
Yeah,
right? Because other people won championships, right? Like you said, we're talking about the history of the NBA right now, right? Other people won championships with way less than that, right?
exactly.
So now you gotta ask yourself, okay, well, where's the competitiveness at, right?
Yeah,
Where's the I can work my tail off, empower people, empower my team, and try to take them all the way there is, right? But then I get also too now that, like, now you got to go back to what you were saying in the beginning, right? The media, right?
yeah.
Because the media puts so much slander and so much pressure and so much whatever the media wants to, whatever story they want to prolong or put
Hmm.
address, right? They put so much emphasis on that players feel like, well, it is hard to win a championship. And if I don't win, look at what they're saying about me right now, right?
Yeah.
What can they say about me later? Because no matter what, you can say that stuff about KD, you can say that stuff about LeBron, but you still talk about their championships, no matter what, right? And I feel
Hmm.
like that's where the conversation kind of stops, especially if you look at players that we just mentioned, right? And they've been on their own or they've been, right? They kind of don't really have anything to show for it, other
Right.
than wins.
And I would say rings do matter, but also how you win your rings matters more. Like a hill that I will absolutely die on. Dirk's one ring alone, or Giannis's one ring alone, or also Jokic's one ring alone are easily more impressive than both of KD's rings combined.
I tell you what, man, you got to be careful with some of that because two of those players that you just mentioned had some great timing to win rings. And that's why you've not seen them win another one afterwards. One of those players you just mentioned, you're right, had a great run, was by himself, was, you know what I mean? He had 67 and 15. He lost to my team, my hometown team, right? As an underdog, right?
Yes.
But besides that, he had a great run. One of those players, you're right. Those other two players, they had some great timing with injuries,
Okay, yes. I
right?
mean,
They were
I
down in the
yes,
series
I
and
agree
people
with
got
that.
hurt.
Yes,
Yeah.
I
People,
definitely agree.
people, people stepping
Yes,
on the
because
line.
the Nets weren't
Yeah.
fully healthy. The Clippers weren't like, yes, I definitely agree with that. But still, the fact
Yeah.
that, everyone was saying, Giannis should
The team that came
leave
out
the
the West.
Bucks and go to
Yeah,
another
the team
team
that
where
came out the
it's
West.
gonna be a whole lot easier for him.
Like it's easy to go somewhere and go and win a championship with somebody else. It's easy. I could go. I don't want to put anybody in the spot, but I could go to a super team and just do my part and win a championship. Still one. But this is the hard way to do it, and this is the way I chose to do it, and we did it.
Well, okay, it wasn't the hardest way, but it was definitely a lot harder than just going to another team where there's a lot more talent.
For sure. And I'll give him credit for that. But
Yeah.
as a basketball player, as a coach, as a person who really knows basketball, I'm telling you right now, they had some great timing. And if they didn't, they haven't even, two of those players haven't even got close to sniffing that championship again. They haven't even got close. So I'm
Right.
telling you right now, they had some great timing associated with those. For
Mhm.
real. Some great
Yeah, and
timing.
also with the Mavericks, it was their last chance. They got swept in the first round the very next year. But Dirk was 32, Jason Kidd was 38, and Sean Marion was also over 30. It was their last chance, and Jason Terry too. Like he was somewhere in his 30s too. So yeah, it was a team that was getting up there in age. It was their last chance, and they were able to accomplish it. And then, yeah, they never won again. But yeah, I would say for sure the fact that Dirk never left the Mavericks, even after all those years, yeah, for sure it's more impressive than what KD's ever done with either of his rings.
You bring up a great point that actually I was going to talk about earlier before I forget, right? And you're asking about the NBA product, and we're talking about champions, and we're talking about this, and we're talking about why threes are going up a lot more.
Yeah.
Man, listen here, man. A lot of people don't want to play their roles anymore. You got
That's
a
very,
lot of
very true.
people
Yes.
who want to do things that other people are doing, or that maybe it's not their skill set, their best skill set, right? Those teams that you mentioned had role players that played their role to the team. And that's what
Exactly.
I'm talking about when you go back to the NFL. That's what you call a team. And
Yes.
that's why you win championships. That's why people can win championships back in the history of the NBA with less players, because you have players wanting to play their role. So, for example, you said rebounding, right? Who wants to rebound? When have you ever heard somebody say, like, oh my gosh, like, I really want to? Who? It's very rare. Now, you go back to the history of the NBA, right? I remember, we already know about the great Dennis Rodman. That man didn't even want to score. He just wanted to rebound. He just wanted to play his role, right? Jason Williams, not the white one, right? The other one, the rebounding one that played with the Nets, right?
Yeah.
Same thing. Ben Wallace,
Right. Yeah.
same thing. So you don't really have that attitude anymore. You have people doing it because they're just on the court and they're rebounding. But you see what I'm saying? You don't have people
Yeah,
playing
like that's
those
one thing I
roles
wanted to get
anymore.
to is how 70% of the rebounds we see nowadays are rebounds that anybody can get because nobody's around the rim. Shot goes up, just go get back on defense, and just the closest one to the basket is the one that gets a rebound.
Pretty much. So that's what I'm saying too about the mentality, or that's what we were talking about earlier. It wasn't on this segment, right? When we talk about the mentality for threes, you see what I'm saying? There's a lack of mentality that, hey, I want to go rebound. Hey, I want to go do that. Hey, I want to play my role so we can be a collective team and win a championship.
Yeah, like
There's
the
a
only guy I can
of
think
that.
of right now that actually earns most of his rebounds is Josh Hart. But
Well, you're from New York, so you take
yeah,
in a lot more New York
but yeah,
than I
like
do
Josh
over there.
Hart, he actually goes all out for those rebounds. But other than him, I don't really see it in other players. Of course, like, I don't get to watch every game. I want to watch as much as I can, but I am only one person. But yeah, the Lakers and Knicks are the two teams I watch more than anyone else. And yes, Josh Hart's the one guy I can think of that actually earns most of his rebounds. But I want to talk about the threes, and there is a correlation too, because the longer the shot, the longer the ball is going to bounce back. So yeah, of course, it's going to be harder to get the rebound if you're right where the basket is when teams are taking more threes.
Yeah, I think you talked about analytics earlier, right? But this all started with analytics, right?
Yes, analytics, very true.
No, really. And you know who was a big person who helped push this through?
Daryl
Do you
Morey.
know? Okay, yeah. You're close to that. But who was that coach that he hired?
D'Antoni.
Yes. He
I
was the
met him
biggest
before, by the
one.
way. Like,
He was the biggest one that was like, you know what? Just shoot the rock. Just shoot three. We don't care. Shoot three.
yeah,
Put the
it was
three
a
up.
mix of
We don't care about
D'Antoni
defense. We
ball
don't
and
care about
Morey
nothing.
ball.
Shoot. Or offense, right? So he was the biggest one pushing that. And like they said, the league's a copycat league.
Yes, that's true.
And then
And the thing with D'Antoni, and he's a great guy. I met him before, so I will say he's a great guy, but there's a reason why his team never made it past the conference finals.
it's just difficult to win like that. To win a
Exactly,
championship like
yeah.
that. To win a
Because,
championship like that.
yes, 3 is worth more than 2, but the 2 is a higher percentage shot. And what I want to bring up about the threes is that, yes, the team taking the most threes right now is the defending champions, the Boston Celtics, and right now they have the 2nd seed. But then we can look at who's taking the next most, the Bulls and the Hornets, who are out of the playoff picture. And the Hornets, as we know, they're terrible. LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller are the guys taking the most threes right now, and they're not even making the league average percentage. And the next 4 are guys who are leading the league in attempts. And these guys are actually great players, but Victor Wembanyama, as great as his skill set is at 7'4", he should not be taking more threes than 2s. He should be using his size near the rim more. Or also Anthony Edwards, he's actually shooting really well from 3. He's shooting over 40%, but his field goal percentage and his scoring is down. And that's been a part of why the Timberwolves are struggling. Yes, the Knicks totally fleeced the Timberwolves with the Cat trade for sure. sure. And Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo have really struggled to find their footing, but also Ant's efficiency's down from shooting so many threes now. I remember when I was watching the game against the Celtics, and he had a really bad game, but when he actually stepped into the mid-range, I'm like, hey, that's what you need to do more, because that's what worked last year. And also, him and Julius Randle over dribble a lot, and Anthony Edwards doesn't really move without the ball. So with DiVincenzo being able to fit with Jalen Brunson, his college teammate, and also Julius Randle to succeed with him too. Yes, Jalen Brunson pounds the ball too, but he also actually moves without the ball. And yeah, that's the thing I also wanted to bring up about the Warriors. Even though they were known for their three-point prowess and still are, but thing is, they actually take good threes, not just threes because of analytics. They have a well-run system. And of all the years they made it to the finals, they only actually led the league in attempts in 2016. Or also, I want to bring up Luka too, and his percentage has dipped from last year, and he's also among the leaders in three-point attempts. So yeah, a lot of guys who are taking a lot of threes really shouldn't have nearly as much of a green light to be shooting as much as they are.
It's as simple as this, man. Don't believe the hype. So
Yes, don't
like you
believe the
just said,
hype.
right?
Yes.
Don't believe the hype, bro. Like you just said, right? Golden State, 2016. But no one would ever believe that, right? Cool. Again, who wins championships shooting threes like that? It does not win championships, right? And
Yeah,
I'm not saying
exactly. Like, you got to have
but
the perfect personnel for it.
it's true though, it doesn't. Miami was the closest thing to that, right? And then they finally came back down to normal in the finals. They lost, right?
Mhm.
Cool. The Celtics last year, they were known as that team as a three, right? But did you see how they win? Drew Holiday going inside,
Yes,
right?
exactly. Yeah. And also,
Countless
the
times,
Mavericks
right?
playing a heliocentric style. Celtics
Countless
not
times.
exactly like the Spurs in 2014 or the Warriors or the Nuggets, but they still move the ball a lot more than the Mavericks.
But the Mavericks were an example of that, right? Before that, the Mavericks were shooting lineouts from the three. Go ask the Minnesota Timberwolves. Then they got to the finals. What happened? That's why they got Klay
Exactly.
Thompson, right? So that's what I'm saying to you. Don't believe. What did you just say about D'Antoni, right? I didn't say that. You said that, right? So I'm
Right.
telling you, right? You gave us statistics about that. Don't believe the hype. That's what I'm
Yes.
saying to you about that. Don't believe the hype. So I
Mhm.
feel like a lot of guys are getting in the hype, right? Maybe a three goes in, maybe you're leading the league in threes, maybe. But when it comes down to it, there's always one champion. And when you look at that one champion, look at it. I mean,
Yes,
you just
and
speak for itself.
another thing I actually wrote down that I want to bring up, a fun fact, when Dirk Nowitzki finally won his championship in 2011, and we know him as the greatest shooting big man of all time, he shot less threes per game than his career average during the regular season, and in the playoffs, he attempted the most twos he's ever taken in a single playoff run since 2005 during that playoff run in 2011.
Don't believe the hype.
Yes. Of course, if you make a three, great, but it's harder to make than a two. And also, how many transition threes we see nowadays? If you miss that, you just made your teammates do a whole lot of cardio for nothing.
Yeah, that's true. It's pretty
Mm-hmm.
funny. But yeah, I mean, like I said, man, you know what I mean? I tell you that you don't win games like not telling you that you're not going to like that. What I'm saying is when you look at the stats and when you look at it at the end of the final, the one champion there is, right? It usually correlates the way that we're saying. Pretty
Exactly,
simple.
So, I would think, to solve this problem with too many threes now, I think move back the three-point line a little more. Do you think that the NBA should move back the three-point line a little more? Because guys are shooting way beyond the arc nowadays.
No, they'll just keep
No?
shooting. What I think. I mean, I don't think that that's going to, I mean, I don't know, maybe, but when you look at guys taking threes right now, they're behind the line, right?
But like they're not just a
So
little bit behind the line, they're taking it from the logo.
yeah, so like I mean, who knows? Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I don't know. But my
Mhm.
thing is like, no. Did you just hear what we just said right now? Right? About who wins the champion when it comes down to it. So why don't you have that same type of focus level and intensity every game like that? Then I think that would solve the problem.
Okay,
We
yeah,
just
like,
said
I think that, okay, sure, coaching, have guys just have a more simple approach. There is still a place for a mid-range game today. Going back to the Rockets with Daryl Morey and Mike D'Antoni, nowadays we see James Harden taking more mid-range shots because he doesn't have the explosiveness he had back then to get to the basket. So if it's fine for him to take mid-range shots now while he doesn't have the explosiveness that he once had, why wasn't it okay back then?
why don't you just do what why to win? How about
Yeah,
that?
'cause, like, it just made him
Don't
a lot more
don't pre
predictable against the better teams when he wasn't taking mid-range shots.
don't predetermine anything. You know, it's so funny. I actually had a friend send me something the other day, right? And it went like this. All right, it was like a layup is 50,000, a free throw is 100,000. Top of the three is 250. Three is
Mhm.
1 million. You get what are you taking? Think about that one, right? What do you think people are going to take?
Yeah, so they wanna take what's more.
Right? Your one shot. And I just told you how much a layup was worth, right? And a free throw. I'm saying it's like the same type of mentality. It's like it's like a gambling mentality, Risk it
Yes.
all than to do what you gotta
Mhm.
do you're still winning, right? You rather lose than win. It just is, right?
Okay, so we did actually already talk about rebounding, even though that was actually next in my outline, how guys
Mhm.
don't really go for rebounds like they used to anymore. So yeah, I
Yeah.
want to talk about how we have the scores just out of control nowadays. Scoring has risen over the years due to several rule changes, like the implementation of defensive 3 seconds in the 2001 to '02 season, the hand check ban in the 2004-05 season, and more recently, the implementation of freedom of movement in the 2018 to 19 season. And pace of the game has gotten a lot faster, which has allowed league average scoring to be the highest it's been since the 60s. Shooting percentages are much higher now too, but that's not at all because the guys weren't skilled in the 60s. It's because rules just favor the offense a lot more now. And I wanted to share this clip from Vince Carter.
Remember the old, I was a part of the old style where you can bump a guy running through the paint. When I started, there was no such thing as an open paint. It was usually a crowded paint because you had the power forward and you had your center in the paint. Now you can look and the paint is wide open and it's driving lanes everywhere. So that's the kind of the evolution of the game where it's different now. And I honestly think some of the guys, I was asked this question before, do you think the guys now could handle the game back when I first started? I don't think so. I think some guys could adapt and adjust to it, but I think some guys wouldn't because the game is so up and down and fast now. Back then, it wasn't. They were allowed to put their hands on you. You were allowed to get chucked. You were allowed to get hit. And what is considered flagrant now was common then. So it's like, hey, get up and keep playing. Or sometimes you get hit, you look at the ref, he's like, play ball. So it's just a different game. And I think a lot of guys mentally couldn't take the physical beating throughout the course of an 82-game season. And it got worse in playoffs.
That's what I want to share on this thing. Because, yeah, I definitely think he has a point because the paint is more open than ever before nowadays. And knowing he's been part of 4 different decades, I think he knows what he's talking about. Or also, Kevin Garnett talked about it too. And I mentioned this earlier.
Watch now, points are like 144, I think I saw the other night, and 125. And I remember being in some All-Star games where I think we scored maybe 144, 140. Like, is the high scoring work?
I mean, again, you're talking about competitors. Kevin Garnett was a competitor.
Very
That
true.
man was fierce. So
Yes.
that's the difference. Again, name me a competitor these days. A Kobe, a MJ, a Kevin Garnett, a Charles Barkley. Name me a Shaquille O'Neal. Name me a guy today.
Jimmy Butler's there, but he's not nearly as skilled as those guys.
Okay, that's one.
Or also, yeah, there's not very many at all, that's for sure. And even though I was critical of Russell Westbrook's IQ and fundamentals, I will give him credit for being a competitor, but he just lacks the fundamentals and IQ.
There's another part to this, though. So you name me competitors, you're right. Those two guys are competitors, right? But my thing is this, though. It gets you in trouble these days. And that's what I was talking about, entitlement, competitive empowerment, right? How many teams has Jimmy Butler's been on? How many teams has Russell Westbrook been on?
That's true.
How many teams has Kobe been on? How many teams has MJ been on?
That's
How many
true.
teams has Kevin Garnett been on?
Yeah,
See
it
what I'm
gets you in
saying
trouble
to you?
nowadays, yeah.
It gets you in trouble nowadays because people can't handle it. And that's what Vince is talking about right there, right? Because how can you be physical with somebody that can't even handle you mentally, asking you to give your best or something like that? Come on. Like, how many of those guys do we have now, right? Like, it goes with the coaching thing, right? People are afraid because they can't handle it.
Yeah, and we were talking about earlier, Pat Riley's the one who's actually had the balls to tell LeBron no. And that's why he left, but that's also why the Heat didn't just go straight to the basement of the NBA like the Cavs did both times LeBron left. But yeah, what I also want to get at is that even guys that are not so good are able to score 50. Like Malachi Flynn, for example, was able to score 50 in a game, and he's a career G League player. And for anyone not named Wilt Chamberlain to score 70 points in the game, it almost almost never happened. Like, okay, Kobe had 81, but now we've seen 3 70-point games in the last couple of seasons. Or also, even a decade ago, 2015, Mo Williams, while he was way past his prime, scored 52 in a game. And 2019, Jamal Crawford, way past his prime, scored 50 in a game.
I mean, and I don't even know what year this was. Maybe it was right around then. It wasn't too long ago, right? Devin Booker, 70
70,
points.
yes, 2017. I
Before.
remember that.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, so it was right around then, right? You said 2019. But that's
It was
before
2017,
he was
actually,
in his
Devin
prime.
Booker. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was before he was in his prime.
True. Actually, I think he was starting to get there, but he wasn't what he is now, that's for sure.
No. He wasn't there. He was not there.
Like, he was
No
he was
way.
an all-star caliber player, but yeah, he definitely wasn't what he's been the last 3 years at that time.
My man, Phoenix wasn't even an
Yeah.
afterthought then. I
They were
would not say he
totally
was
an
in his prime.
afterthought. And I remember, I only watched the highlights of that game, but I remember thinking the Celtics were just like, whatever, you can score all these points because we're better than you anyways. And the Celtics actually won that game.
Mentality. Like I said, mentality.
Yes. And the other thing I want to bring up, Jamal Crawford's 50-point game was a meaningless game at the end of the season. His team was 19-63. The Mavericks, that was Dirk's last game. They were eliminated from the playoffs. But the Mo Williams 52-point game, that was actually a meaningful game for his opponent, the Pacers, who were actually only 2 games out of the playoffs at that time. It was a meaningless game for the Timberwolves. They were in dead last, but the Pacers actually had something to play for. They were 2 games out of the playoffs, and they actually had the 7th-ranked defense that year, and they were the ones who gave up 52 to Mo Williams while he was way past his prime.
Kobe did it too.
That's true. His 60-point game, and the thing with him though is
That last game
unlike
before he went out, that was not a bad Jazz team. So
they were
he did shoot the ball a lot, but
right.
Still.
Mm-hmm. And Kobe's last game, the thing with them, Jamal Crawford or Mo Williams, even though they had successful careers, they're definitely not nearly as important to the NBA as Kobe. And also, the Jazz, they were the 9th seed. They were just eliminated from the playoffs. I forgot who won that got them eliminated, but I think they were told during the game, like, yeah, you guys aren't going to make the playoffs. We found out during the game that they're not going to make the playoffs. But like, going into the game, yeah. The day before the game, they actually had a chance, but then during the game, like, yep, they were out.
Yeah, and I just want to say Jamal Crawford has a bigger impact than you're kind of letting on, right? Well, how many 6-man awards did he win?
He won 3. Like, of course, I'm not saying that he didn't have an impact. And in fact, when I was in middle school, he was my favorite Knick, but like, he's definitely not Kobe.
For sure. But I'm also saying Jamal Crawford's the reason why you wanted a 6-man who come off the bench who can score. He's the reason why some players that were starters who were scorers came off the bench because they were like, hey, look at Jamal. Lou Williams, right? He comes in the game. You just give him the ball. Like, he was just like, what person do you know comes off the bench and then you just base their offense around them? You know what I'm saying? Like,
actually, that was in the 60s with John Havlicek. And then when Bill Russell and Sam Jones retired, that's when John Havlicek became a starter.
Yeah.
So that's why the 6th man of the award was named after him. But yeah, it's become more common now. And John Havlicek, I guess he kind of made it cool. He was definitely better at it. He was the leading scorer on his team by a lot while coming off the bench in the late 60s.
But Jamal Crawford paid way a lot. I'm not saying he paid way to James Harden, but again, the formula was the same, right? You got 6 players. You can only play 5, but the 6-man can come off and run the off. Look at James Harden. Look at what it turned. Like, there's a lot of players that, again, the NBA is a copycat league, right? They use that Jamal Crawford formula, and we're signing players like that. I just told you, James Harden that's how they used
I remember
them.
when he won 6th man of the year.
Yeah. So there's a lot of players, right? I said again, Lou Williams, that they try to model based off that Jamal Crawford, right? We need a 6. Norman Powell's even won. He just starts now, but he was coming off the bench. Doing those things as well, right? Straight off the bench, just coming in, just firepower. So there's a lot of players that they modeled after that.
That's true. Yeah, and what I also wanted to go to with Jamal Crawford, he was playing in a meaningless game. His team was 19-63. The Mavericks were also eliminated from the playoffs. But even in meaningless games, like way back then, because I was looking at, for example, the 2012 Charlotte Bobcats, worst winning percentage in NBA history. They didn't give up more than 29 points to anyone in the final stretch of that season. Or when the Clippers were really bad, they were playing at the LA Memorial Sports Arena before the Staples Center was built, and they weren't giving up 40 or 50 to someone way past his prime towards the end of those seasons. And yeah, this goes back to what, as you were saying, mentality.
Yeah, because that's an interesting point. That's a crazy, interesting point.
Yeah, so to make teams have more pride on the defensive end, well, yes, I think that coaching can definitely help. Even if coaches are really defensive minded, like we see the Clippers with Jeff Van Gundy as their assistant coach, and he had some great defensive teams with both the Knicks and the Rockets as the head coach. There's still only so much a coach can do, so maybe bring back the older rules to value defense more.
But they kind of do bring that back in the playoffs. It's not as bad as the season. It's still,
Right.
you know,
Yeah, like they
fits this
do let
era,
the
but
players play a
it's
little
not
bit
that
more.
bad in the season. It definitely changes.
Yeah, like they do definitely have a looser whistle. And also, of course, have some incentives to play defense. The OKC Thunder recently just did that by giving Alex Caruso a pretty decent amount of money to just play defense because he's not going to be a scorer. He's not even averaging 10 points per game in this era, but defense is half the game, and they paid him just to play defense.
But see, there you go again. You got a team that knows that plays its role.
Right.
That's why they won 14 in a row, I believe, right?
Yeah, like ever
And
since Isaiah
you know,
Hartenstein's come back, I knew all along, and I had some hits, I had some misses in my offseason winners and losers, and one that I definitely knew was a winner because the Knicks and the Lakers are the teams I watched the most. When the Thunder got Isaiah Hartenstein and Alex Caruso, oh, they hit the jackpot this offseason. Their defense just got that much better with those two guys.
because those
Yeah,
guys play hard. They play their role. They just want to win.
exactly.
So, for sure.
Yes, because defense is half the game. And also, I recently watched Dime Dropper. Most of my basketball audience knows about Dime Dropper. He said this in a recent live he did about when he was growing up as a pass first point guard. Instead of being asked, "Did you win?" after a game growing up, he said, "How many points did you score?" Was it like that for you at all? Instead of being asked, "Did you win?" How many points did you score?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's made, the people around me say that, right?
Yeah,
Your friends, the people who watch you play, the people who know that seen you perform at a high level for a while. I feel like they're just curious of how you did. But I feel like I don't let that go to my head.
right. I
If
think some
anybody
guys
knows me,
do. Yeah,
exactly. If anybody knows me, they know that winning is my priority. Championships is my
exactly.
priority. A legacy is my priority. Being one
Yeah,
of the best is my priority. So
yeah,
even though they would say that to me, I would still tell them it doesn't matter. We lost, right? Even
right.
though obviously you know this, right? I got a recent MVP. Right? It doesn't really matter because ultimately we didn't win the big thing. Even though we made the playoffs and we did some things, right?
Right.
I always feel like if I'm on the court, there's a chance to win.
Yeah.
And I like the way that, again, I kind of mix football in here. But I like what, it's a Coach Prime mentality, right? Even though he took over the Colorado Buffs the first year, they were like, yo, to rebuild the season. And he was like, look, anywhere I'm at, I'm trying to win, right?
Right.
As long as I got an opportunity to win, that's what I'm going to try to do. So I look at it like that. I can sit here and I can tell you maybe we're a few more pieces or we need this, we need that. But no, if I'm on the court and there's a chance to win, I'm going for it. It's
Yeah.
that simple.
Going back to, guys playing their role, like Dennis Rodman, for example, he had so many games in his career. I don't know how many exactly, and we can put this in when we edit this, but how many games he scored 0 points but had 20 rebounds.
Yeah, yeah. Or what do you mean? The final series versus the Jazz. His main goal was just to do what he did to Carmelo.
Yeah,
Right?
or
That was it.
also, I made a video on the
Agitating
96
him.
finals. I didn't mention this because it wasn't the point of the video. My point was how Michael Jordan was being guarded. But when I was watching that series, yeah, he got Frank Brickowski ejected twice during that series. His job was to get
Twice.
in the other team's head. And
That's it. That's
he
it. To
wasn't one
get
to
those to get
actually
them.
physically hit people. He was there to just piss off certain guys on the other team and make them retaliate.
Yeah, I mean, I forgot what year this was exactly, right? But this had to be maybe Shaquille O'Neal's one of his first 2 seasons on LA. But basically, Shaquille O'Neal, I was watching a vintage game, right? And when Shaquille O'Neal was dominating the first half, and then they put Dennis Rodman on him. That was it.
Right.
That was his sole goal.
Yeah.
Shaquille, you know how big Shaq is, one of the biggest, most dominant players ever, and they put Dennis Rodman, who's 6'6", 6'5", maybe whatever on
Yeah.
him.
Dennis
He did
Rodman,
his job second
he
half,
had it
and they
up
won.
here.
Yeah, and they won. So that's what I'm saying. You got guys who play their role. It takes trust as
Yeah.
well, right? You play your role. Michael plays his role. Scotty plays his role. We get right. It takes trust. I feel like that's what's missing too. You don't got a lot of people who
Yeah.
trust each other, right? You
Yeah.
just got people just playing for themselves sometimes. I mean, I don't even say playing for themselves, right? But let's just say that it takes trust. It
Yeah,
takes
it's like I
trust.
was also a long time ago. I remember watching Dennis Rodman highlights, and he called a timeout as soon as he gets the rebound because he knows he's a bad free throw shooter. And the commentators were really complimenting him for how smart of a timeout that was.
I
Because
remember
it's
that.
late in
I
the
think I remember.
game. Yeah. So what I also want to
Yeah.
talk about is rivalries being dead nowadays. In the 80s, Magic Johnson and Larry Bird saved the NBA. And I remember growing up as a Lakers fan how much I hated the Celtics, but I don't really feel that way anymore. Like, of course, when they get to the finals, I'm going to root against them. And I sure was pissed off when they won up the Lakers again. But during the regular season, like, oh my God, I really hope these guys lose. I hate the Celtics. I don't feel that animosity that I used to growing up against the Celtics.
Because again, it's going back to everything we talk about, right? The entertainment aspect, the money aspect,
Yeah, it's just too
the
buddy
media
buddy nowadays.
aspect.
And
The
yeah,
biggest thing is the fierce
exactly.
competitors.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised you didn't say what I thought you were going to say, right? But you didn't say it so good, so I could say it, right? I'm a
Okay.
West Coast guy. As you already know, I'm from California. But I used to love watching Reggie Miller because
Yes.
when he would play the Knicks,
Yep.
it didn't matter what playoff position they were. It didn't matter if they
Right.
were last or second. You knew he was going to go at Spike Lee and he was going to go at the Knicks no matter
Yep, that's very
what.
true. He's doing that. Yeah.
No matter what. And that's why you watched it. You were like, okay, no matter what, Reggie's going to, you know what I mean? Bring
Look,
it. No matter what, Spike's going to. And not just that. It was like a 3-team horse, right? It was them. It was Miami, right?
right.
Tim Hardaway, Alonzo Mourning, they would bring it too, right?
Yeah.
And whenever though, I watch those three, whenever I watch old games or whenever, right? Those three teams, when they play, they brought it against each other. I loved it.
Absolutely. Yes, and we just don't see it like that anymore. I have no problem with guys being friends off the court, like Michael Jordan and Charles Barkley were great friends off the court before they fell out. But on the court, you should be going at each other's throats, and we just don't see it like that
It's hard to
anymore.
separate. It's hard to separate nowadays, man, because you got social media, you got the
Yeah.
media, you got people pushing agendas and failures, and you know what I mean, throwing things in
Yeah.
people's faces. So
Right.
it's an egotistical world. So it's hard for people's egos to deal with that and still work harder or get better or do what they got to do to make sure that didn't happen.
Yeah, and also I think that something I said way earlier about officiating, these guys are just way too quick to call technical fouls nowadays, even for the slightest trash talk. It's fun for us to see as fans, so let men be men, let them compete, because that's what they get paid to do. That's what we pay to see them do.
Well, that's what you got to go back to what I asked you earlier. You know what I mean? What's the difference between Adam Silver and David Stern? Because that comes
Okay,
from the
yeah.
top, right?
Mhm.
These referees are not doing that at these referee meetings if they're not getting permission to do those things,
Right.
If you're still getting paid to do your job and you're abusing your power, then you're going to keep abusing your power,
That's
right?
true.
So
Mhm.
you gotta look at the top for those things, man. That's
Exactly.
a top. That's a
And
non-basketball related
yeah.
issue.
And like just for the record though, I'm not encouraging guys to throw fists at each other. I definitely don't want another Malice at the Palace again or anything like that, but at least let men be men and let them trash talk to each other and not be so quick to call technical fouls.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I agree with you. For sure.
Yeah. So yeah, this is also what I have next in my notes, or actually I have my script in front of me, the one that I sent you about load management. These guys are paid to play 82 games, not 50, not 60, 82. So why was it so much easier for past generations with significantly less resources and a lot less rest in between games to play every game? It's mind-boggling to me. Really, load management does not prevent injuries. And you can ask the Clippers. What it actually does is it prevents certain injuries from getting worse and it allows careers to last longer, but there's no actual evidence that it actually prevents injuries. Anytime you play any sport at any level, you're always going to be at risk of injury.
Yeah, I mean, if you're asking me my opinion about this, I feel like this is like the referee thing, right? This is a non-basketball related issue, meaning like there are commissioners, there are owners, there are coaches that put in place that talk about this, right?
Yeah.
So the best thing I can say about to you is this, okay? Me playing overseas, right?
Right.
There is no load management for players overseas. When
Yeah.
have you heard of that, right?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because there's accountability from the organization, from the league, right? If we don't play and we are getting paid, right? we're going to hear about it. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Doesn't matter if we won a championship last year or not, right? When you are overseas and you're paid to play, right, and you make a contract, right, they expect you to be out there unless you can't. And if you can't, most likely they will replace you overseas. Most likely, right? Not always, right? If it's a real injury, you know what I mean, an ankle injury, whatever, or something that you can come back from the week, but like a detrimental injury, right? Like a player from the Clippers, you know what I'm saying, that lasted well into the season, well in the playoffs, right? You will be replaced, is what I'm saying to you. So again, that's why I'm saying these are non-basketball related issues, right? Meaning like it goes through an organization, there's a commissioner, there's managers, there are owners that are contributing to what you're talking about.
So yeah, but I wanted to also mention, because nowadays we're at the point where you have to play 65 games to be eligible for an award, and I think they should push it to 70. And fun fact, by the way, the last MVP to play all 82 games was Kobe in 2008.
Bro, I mean, it sounds like a repetitive thing I'm telling you right now. Competitors, man. I'm
Competitors,
not
yeah.
surprised. Sorry about that.
And the 2 seasons before, when he didn't play all 82 games, he played 80. It was because he got suspended.
The only person that I can think of that has come out and said many times that they want to play as many games as they can is James Harden, ironically. I mean, there are some times where, I mean, you can even look at it like this year, right? You got your main compadre not playing. He could have easily packed it up, right? Been throwing up threes, but like you see where the Clippers are at, right? And I just remember numerous times James Harden saying he loves basketball, he loves the hoop. That's what he wants to do, right? Again, there might be other players, if you look at it, that might have played more. I don't know, but I'm just telling you, when I watch his interviews and he talks about playing, he always talks about he loves the game. Why would he not be out there if he can be out there? You know what I mean? Not when he's trying to get traded, but like when he's settled,
when he's
trying to be out there. Yeah.
So yeah, when he's not wearing fat suits.
Yeah. Like I said, when he's not trying to get traded, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, he's pretty much out there.
And one thing, and what I have to say also, I have this down, and yeah, like whether these guys like it or not, they do owe it to the fans, because sports would not be sports without fans, and these guys are paying their hard-earned money to see these guys play. So I don't encourage guys to try to play through it if they're really, like, if they can't walk, they can't walk. Okay. And I understand not everyone is Kobe, playing through injuries, or another fierce competitor that we haven't mentioned yet. Like, I actually can't believe this, but I'll mention him now. Allen Iverson, how many injuries he played through. And Iverson's the inspiration for this, by the way.
I was actually thinking about him earlier.
Yeah. So I get that, but when a star player isn't actually hurt and they have to sit out a game, it's disrespectful to the fans who buy their jerseys and pay to see these guys play in person. These players would not be filthy rich if it weren't for the fans.
I'm just going to smile at that, man. I'm not going to really address that or say anything, because I feel like that's a common sense thing, you know what I mean? And I'm a player. So, I mean, I feel like you said it best, right? I mean, because the things I would say about that would probably need to be discussed off of camera, because on camera, it would be a bigger debate. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So, but yeah, I feel like obviously you're right.
Yeah, and I think that anytime the highest paid player or the second highest paid player sits out a game or two when they're not actually hurt, or actually, even if they are hurt, actually, and I think it would be better if they're not actually hurt, like if it's actually load management, the fans should get a partial refund to show these guys that they do care about the fans. And Adam Silver has put in a policy where teams get fined for load managing, and has enforced it to an extent, but I don't think he's been consistent enough, because teams do still tend to get away with it quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, again, well, like we said about the commissioner, right? Adam Silver, David Stern. What's the difference,
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of things have changed during Adam Silver's tenure.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think it's for the best because the sport's been globalized and it's making more money.
Right.
But sometimes more isn't better. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
Sometimes you take away from the heart of things and how things originally started and the future where it's going.
Yeah. So yeah, the next thing I want to talk about now is All-Star Weekend, how much of a joke that's been and how they're changing the format this year, and guys like LeBron, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, they've spoken out about it, and I agree with them, but they also have themselves to blame for not taking it seriously. And I'm definitely sure of it that I'm not alone. Guys are not even getting in a defensive stance. That's like the bare minimum, right? And they're not even doing that. And I remember I used to get excited for All-Star Weekend. Remember I used to wear this to school every first Friday of All-Star Weekend. But nowadays, yeah, I'll pass, and I'll probably watch an old school All-Star game nowadays because that's when guys actually cared. And now it's just guys chucking threes and throwing alley-oops to themselves, totally uncontested. Like, no one's asking to play defense like it's game 7 of the finals, but can these guys at least do the bare minimum, at least try to get in defensive stance? I watched the 98 All-Star game before I started writing all this out. The first possession of the game, Michael Jordan scored, but Kevin Garnett was actually at least guarding him, and also I saw some guys diving for loose balls.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people have been saying that's a problem. And I think last year, did they score 200 points last year?
Yeah, it
Was it
was.
last
Yeah,
year?
even Barack Obama actually did a podcast with Tyrese Halliburton. He was calling them out.
Y'all got to have a little more pride in that All-Star game. I mean, look, it's not as if y'all don't play pickup during the summers.
Right.
So you know how to play in a way that, all right, I'm not going to hurt anybody. I'm not going to take anybody out. But that All-Star game's it's broke, man.
Well, I
mean, like people just like not running, everybody just trying all kinds of.
Well, I'm not.
It used to be when Kobe and Michael and Isaiah, those guys were playing, man. I mean, they weren't playing the way they did regular season, but they wanted to win.
Yeah. So listen, they say it's based upon the fans, right? The fans vote, the fans put the product out there, right? So if you don't like the product and you're the fans, they're saying it's on you, right?
Exactly. And there's nothing wrong with doing things you wouldn't normally do in a game that actually counts. And some things can be entertaining, like if Dwight Howard made a 3 during the All-Star game when he was in his prime playing in it, or if Shaq was bringing the ball up the court, that's fine. But at least show that you actually care at least a little bit. And with this new format, the winners getting paid, in the past, nobody needed a pay raise to just show a little pride in the All-Star game, right? You guys make more money than any other generation, and for these guys to just not even show any pride, I feel like it's a slap in the face.
Well, I mean, again, like you just said, there's a new All-Star format, right? It seems like the M word is a big motivation for people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like
So,
I would say keep the old format, maybe a handout fines for giving up more than 160 points, and those fines can be used for partial refunds who attended the game, or maybe even the All-Star game. If the teams in the finals are like 2 or 3 wins apart, I'd say have the All-Star game determine home court advantage. Because I remember back in the day, the Major League Baseball game actually had the All-Star game determine who gets home field advantage in the World Series.
Yeah, I remember that.
Mm-hmm. In the last 15 years, I can only remember 2 dunk contests that were actually even a little bit entertaining. The Blake Griffin one and Zach LaVine versus Aaron Gordon. And one problem, I think, the fact that a lot of star players are now refusing to be in it. Last year, okay, there was Jaylen Brown, but most of the time, like back in the 80s, Michael Jordan versus Dominique Wilkins was must-see TV, or Vince Carter in the 2000 dunk contest. So yeah, we don't really see the stars anymore. Not asking for top-tier talent from all 4 participants, but at least a little more, right? Like, don't you wish we could see Anthony Edwards participate in the dunk contest? Or Giannis only ever participated long before he is who he is now. And Kobe, when he won the dunk contest, he was 18 years old. He wasn't who he is now, but people knew he would get there eventually. It would just take some time. Now, a G League player is the 2-time reigning dunk contest champion. Jason Richardson won back-to-back. He was a good player, but never an all-star. He was a thrill to watch in the dunk contest. But yeah, too many guys that we don't even know about are in the dunk contest. Does anyone know who won the dunk contest in 2019, or does anyone even remember? Because I actually had to look it up before we got on this thing. Hamidou Diallo, I don't even know if I said his name right.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was fun seeing short guys like Spud Webb, even though this was before we were born. But I remember when Nate Robinson was winning those dunk contests. The last one he won was when the dunk contest started getting boring. But the first 2 he won, those were actually entertaining dunk contests. So
Yeah.
yeah, the dunk contest is another thing that's just gotten so boring, or Saturday night in general. I remember back when I used to be excited for All-Star Weekend, but now whatever. All-Star Weekend, just All-Star Weekend, it's just a vacation for these guys now.
Yeah, basically what it looks like and it sounds like, according to you and according to viewership, they just need a new format. Sometimes you gotta just keep tinkering with something, find out what works.
Yeah, and like we haven't found what actually works. And the next thing I wanted to go to, you pointed to it, was social media. And guys don't want to be seen going viral, like what Kyrie did in the rookie sophomore game back in 2013. That was the start of it, right? And if you get embarrassed, it's not going to define you. Like when Allen Iverson crossed up Jordan, that didn't define him. And Jordan also at least recovered quick enough to contest a shot. Or when MJ dunked on Dikembe Mutombo, 4-time defensive player of the year. I'm pretty sure people are going to remember that over getting dunked on by the greatest player of all time. Or also, we've seen it on YouTube. Maybe we got to really look hard for the full game, but when Kobe and T-Mac were going at it with each other in the early part of the 2002-03 season, even though, yeah, they had a difficult time guarding each other because they were two of the best perimeter scorers in the game at the time, at least they weren't afraid to guard each other, right?
For sure.
It goes back to the whole mentality thing, right?
A little bit. I mean, it's pretty much all the things that we said. It's just all coming together. You know what I mean? For
Yeah.
real.
And
So,
what I was thinking also, for these guys to have more pride, have NBA contracts more like NFL contracts where not every single dollar in the contract is actually fully guaranteed.
well, I mean, again, like it's kind of hard, you know what I mean? Because social media, there's a lot of people talking about you, people you don't know. And,
Yeah.
no one really likes that. So it's not easy, especially if you're not like really, there are some players out there like that.
Hmm.
Always difficult, not
Yeah.
easy, but again, it is kind of like your job and it is kind of like what you sign up for. So you
Hmm.
just got to just be thick-skinned, I guess. But, we all make mistakes.
That's
You
true.
know what I
Yeah,
mean?
no one's
So,
perfect. So
exactly.
yeah,
So we can't just be thinking of it like that.
yeah,
But
so where to wrap this up? So you want to share what's coming next for you?
yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah,
And
so it's
hopefully,
a pleasure to have you on the show.
yeah. I mean, I loved it. And obviously, hopefully, you know what I mean? We do this again. I
For
mean, I'm
sure.
pretty sure we talked about some things. So let's see. But off the court, I do a lot of, like I said, right? I coach, I train, I have my own brand, I have my own athletic socks that
Right.
hopefully we could put in this link and that people can get. And I just continue to
Hmm.
continue just everyone
Because
around me. I
I
wish
have
them
a pair of
success.
those socks. Let me see if
Yeah,
I can
how
find
they
them.
feel? They feel good. We got some more coming. I got some more for you, so no
Yeah,
problem.
so
So,
yep, I got them right here.
hey, I appreciate that. But yeah,
Yeah.
nah, off the court, I just wish everybody success. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Everybody that
For
I deal
sure.
with, from my friends to you, to my family, to
Thank
the
you.
kids I coach.
Appreciate that. Hmm.
2025, hopefully we just continue to the brands I work with. I'm very grateful for the basketball academies I work in Vietnam,
Hmm.
G7, like I said, my manufacturer, just everything. Like I just hope everyone has success for real. So
Hmm.
I wish everybody the best. You know what I mean? On the court, of course, right? Trying to work my tail off, trying to
Yeah.
just get another championship, just continue to do the best I can. So yeah, I got some things coming up right now, coaching wise, going back home, going to go coach the Lions. Hopefully we can get into the
Good luck.
playoffs and we can do some things. Yeah, go
Best of luck.
LACS. Like I said, friends, that's just pretty much it. Just continuing the movement, just continue to try to do the right things, just continue to just help out people around me. So that's it.
Hmm.
Yeah,
So
that's
all
it.
right.
And to continue to travel. That's actually, thank you. Continue to do what I do and travel. I haven't
Yes.
seen
Hmm.
Africa yet. I've been to 12 different countries. I
Hmm.
want to get to Europe a
That's,
little bit.
hmm.
So,
Yeah,
and
it's
shout out to
definitely
my
something
friends that
that
got me there.
I would also definitely like to be traveling a little more than I do as well. I've been stuck in Japan for a while. I mean, I wouldn't say stuck because I've enjoyed my time here, but yeah, of course, I would definitely love to travel as much as you do as well. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
where we'll wrap
So,
this up. So appreciate everyone
yeah,
tuning
so I'm pretty much
in.
my bad. But that's it, man. Just those things. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and thank you for being here. So yeah, links to B Strip's YouTube channel, where you can find him is down in the description, so you can check out what he's doing. So that's where we'll wrap this up. So if you enjoyed the content, please be sure to leave a like. That'd be much appreciated. Please be sure to consider subscribing and turning on notifications. Your support is much appreciated. If you're already subscribed, thank you so much for your support as always. Links to B Strip's YouTube channel, go subscribe to him as well, and also links to my social social media or down below for my more immediate reactions to what's going on in the sports world. So yeah, be sure to check out B-Strip. It was a pleasure to have you on the show. So now, here's my most recent video and the one that YouTube recommends. Both are up above. Thank you so much for watching. Once again, pleasure to have B-Strip on the show, and I'll catch you guys next time.